Hey. I'm your humble host, Fizz Ed Music, and this right here is Urban Politics, where politics lives. I want to thank you all for liking and subscribing as you do. Please, as soon as this video is over, take your little cell phone over to YouTube, like and subscribe, Fizz Ed Music, Urban Politics. But without further ado, I want to jump right into it like a car and drive, because there's all types of tasty and delicious politics for us to sink our teeth into. Let's talk about some Senate races. Yes. Hopefully you are registered to vote. The vote is coming up November 8th. I'll be working the local polls. Come on out. I'll be in Bexley, you know what I'm saying? Bexley, Ohio, if you're out there. You know what I'm saying? I'll probably be up here at Afrocentric, or excuse me, well, Mohawk Afrocentric, but you know, it's the new school, you know what I'm saying? The Columbus Public House over here. So that's what's up. And it's going to be a good time, man. Cassie and vote, like I always say, vote early, vote often. So November 8th, I hope you are registered. If you're not registered, go out and get registered. If you're like me, you want to vote absentee, you know, you like to vote at home with a cup of coffee, you know, while you voir dire the candidates or whatnot. Do that. You can do that right now. I'm pretty sure that open voting is open right now, whatnot. So, I mean, not open, but you know what I'm saying? Early voting is open right now. We're about to be in a couple of days. So get up on that, ladies and gentlemen. But November 8th is you know, voting day. So that is what it is. With that said, let me go and talk about these Senate races, because a lot of these guys, that's where these races are going to be decided at that day, November 8th. So Mehmet Oz, accused of killing dogs. His campaign has had one WTF moment after another. That's putting it mildly. 300 dogs and a litter of puppies. They said that this man had to do with the murder of those. Talked about he talked about it at a fundraiser. Took pictures in front of a car owned by Hitler. I don't know. Why did he feel the need to do that? Well, you know why he felt the need to do that. He is running as a Republican, so he has to appeal to that base. That base thinks that's real cute and real clever to be in front of a car with swastikas on that was owned by Hitler. So he done did that stupid stuff that they all do or whatever. Matt Gaetz was there. Rick Scott was there. Doesn't surprise me. All these guys are on that, just giving that base whatever it needs to try and garner these votes. These people are pathetic. They're bottom feeders. So, especially, come on, man. I mean, Matt Gaetz, I talked about him in Nasm. We already know he the guy who can't stop messing around with young women. You know what I'm saying? Underage women. Rick Scott, that's the guy who wants to get rid of Medicare, Medicaid. He wants to get rid of everything. This guy got more money than God. He don't even want you to be able to feed yourself. Or elderly people would be able to feed themselves, or poor people would be able to feed themselves. So that is what it is. Of course, they were there, you know, chumming it up with their other rich buddies who want to do the rest of us in. So there's that. So that's what Mr. You know what I'm saying, Oz is up to. But he's got all that going on. 300 dogs, and plus a litter of puppies. They had to throw that in there. So not only 300 dogs, there's also 300 dogs and a litter of puppies. What? That's terrible right there. But you know what? In today's times and with today's GOP, I would not be surprised if that didn't even sink Mr. Oz in the polls. Which is sad and pathetic to say. Usually, most times, when people hear that you harm dogs, when people hear that you've harmed dogs, they're on it. There's a lot of people who put more stock in that than if you had hurt people. He probably could have had something to do with 300 human deaths, and people wouldn't be as outraged as they are about 300 dog deaths. So with that being said, we'll see what happens with this. Now, there's a whole laundry list of reasons why Mr. Oz should not win this race. First of all, you know what I'm saying? He's a guy trying to run for a Senate seat in Pennsylvania. He's not from Pennsylvania. That's number one. So, and behind that, there's a whole other list of reasons. He is not fit to govern. He is not fit for office. But TI is what TI is. We'll see where this goes. But I do think the constituents are a little smarter than this, and they're probably not going to give Mr. Oz that spot. We'll see where it goes, though, right? Let's talk about another Senate race. J.D. Vance is struggling in a race with Tim Ryan right here in Ohio. At one point, unable to be located. That was Mr. Vance. They couldn't find him. While Tim Ryan, the incumbent, has garnered some GOP support with a message that they like and rejecting endorsements from people like AOC. Tim Ryan is prevailing in a state that Trump won 2 times. That is the great state of OH and a dime, where I'm at right now, ladies and gentlemen, Ohio. And it pains me to say that Trump won my great state 2 times. Not once, but twice. Man, that don't say much for Ohio, right? But it is what it is, right? But Tim Ryan is a Democrat, and he is prevailing. You know, I've talked also about his commercials and all this stuff, and I get it. Pushing away from AOC, he kind of has to do that because AOC ain't got no fans here in Ohio. I mean, I'm one. I love AOC. And I'm sure there's some other progressives in Columbus and other surrounding Dayton, Cincinnati, other surrounding cities who love AOC. But I guarantee you get outside some of these cities in Ohio, you ain't gonna find much love for AOC. I would wonder how they feel about AOC in Hilliard. I would wonder how they feel about AOC in Westerville. I don't wonder. I know. I've had these conversations. I know they don't like no AOC. She's one of those horrible liberals. So it is what it is. So he's done what he's done, distancing himself from the likes of AOC. You know, who gave him a compliment, but he kind of had to distance himself because he's like, nah, I don't need that type of love right now in this race because the people who I'm hoping will vote for me do not dig you. So he had to do what he had to do. You know, incumbent 2-term Congressman Ron Johnson from Wisconsin failed 7 points in his race. That ain't good, so it's not faring well for him. Herschel Walker, that guy is a hot mess. He's a hot mess. Constantly lying about everything from own businesses, jobs, positions, children that he claims he don't have, that he has, that his staff didn't even know that he has, that come up out the woodwork. What? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? There was a woman he paid to have an abortion. She came forward. He said it was a lie. She had the receipts from the abortion. My God. And she's also his baby mama. So not only did you pay for this woman to have an abortion, but you also have a child with her. And he been lying about all that. Man, this guy is some piece of work. I mean, at some point it's like, come on, man. It's just ridiculous the amount of lies that this guy has just heaped in this campaign. Yeah, like I said, this woman's also his baby's mom. Georgia deserves better. He has a son, Christian Walker. Now, this guy's been all over TikTok. Now, I'm going to tell you, he's going to talk about, Christian Walker was saying that the left was blaming him for all of his father's mistakes. And he was saying that the right was mad at him. Now, no, or he wasn't talking about the real issue is that the right is mad at him. Republicans are not digging this guy at all because they're blaming any losses or any missteps. You know what I'm saying? That Herschel Walker has had in his campaign. They're blaming it on his son. You know what I'm saying? If he ends up losing, they're gonna say, "Oh, this is all because of Christian Walker." You know, going out on TikTok and having a campaign against his father. And this kid ain't lying. If you can see some of this guy's TikToks or whatever, this kid is not lying. Herschel Walker is probably a terrible father, has probably always been a terrible father, never been there, all of that stuff. And any emotional, because they were trying, then there's people on the right trying to say that this kid's a brat and he's emotionally unstable and da-da-da. Well, if any of that is true, he got that from his pappy. He got that from Mr. Walker. So why do you think this kid is emotionally unstable or whatever? It's because of his horrible father who ain't never been there for him. You know what I'm saying? So that right there is just a huge mess. And a lot of reason I think this kid is sitting there saying that the left is blaming him for his father's, saying actions, is because he's actually, I think he's pretty much a right winger. I want to say that I've seen him on TikTok before all this stuff started going on with his dad, being an abysmal failure as a candidate. But before that, I feel like I saw this young man on TikTok and I saw him spewing some extreme, like conservative rhetoric, some extreme rhetoric, like he sits on the right. So I think he's a Republican. So I think in his mind, he's like, liberals are blaming me for my father's actions and the right is cool with me, when really, no, the right is mad at you. And when your father flounders as a candidate, like he's going to do because he's a horrible candidate, they're going to blame you for it. That's what's going to happen. They're going to say, oh, Christian Walker is the reason why Herschel Walker didn't win in Georgia. And no, the reason why Herschel Walker won't win in Georgia is because Georgians have a brain. Georgia, please don't prove me wrong come November 8th. Anyway, moving on. Blake Masters, got rid of some extreme rhetoric on his website after his primary win in Arizona. So you know how that goes with these guys. They get out there and they say all this stuff about, I don't support abortion in any case, life of the mother or anything else. And then, you know what I'm saying, they win that primary, they get through that, now they want to change, now they want to erase all that, delete those tweets, get rid of all that, and now they're going to have a view that comes from the center. Well, we should always talk about the life of the mother and talk about how, abortions affect real people before we get into whether they should be legal or not. So that's all about them. And we'll talk about them wanting to soften their language around abortion and things like that, right? Because they shape-shifting. So that's what this guy's about. As soon as he won that primary, he said, "Oh, let me go home and you know what I'm saying, delete some of the stuff that helped me win this primary, because now I might end up having to do a general in a general election. I definitely want to seem like I'm more of a middle road type of guy, and I'm not." Anyway, the GOP plan used by all GOP candidates is pretty much the same. Number one, tie Democrats to an unpopular Joe Biden. The president at the time is always unpopular because the president at the time is always to blame for whatever is not going right at the time. That's just how that is. I don't care who the president is, whether he's a Republican, whether he's a Democrat. If things suck at the moment, or anything that does suck at the moment, is the president's fault because he is the president. And usually, the opposing party, they know that. That's how politics works, right? So that's why they go out there and they telling all their candidates tie every Democrat to Joe Biden because he's unpopular because he's the president right now. So any problems that people are mad about, they tie it to Joe Biden. Tie these candidates to Joe Biden. Inflation. Come on now, that's hitting everybody in the pocket. Everybody's thinking about the money that they ain't got no more because they're at the store spending, $6-7 on a gallon of milk. $3, $4, $5 on a carton of eggs. People ain't digging that. Tie that to Joe Biden. Make that Joe Biden's fault. It's really about the supply chain, and I've even talked about that ad nauseum on this show, but guess what? People are people, and they blame the president for that. So tie that to Joe Biden. Say that that's his fault, right? Immigration and border security. Oh, my God. Everybody uses this. Nobody really uses it, I'll say, as much as the right. The right really loves to harp on this border security when I have told you, and I'll say it again, they don't give a damn about border security. They don't care about that. They don't. But guess what? Years ago, my pops told me the same thing. He said, man, them Democrats, they don't care about border security either. He said, them Democrats, they don't care about the dreamers. I was like, they don't care about the dreamers. Barack Obama and all them went on and on and on about, these kids and how they, they're here through no fault of their own, but they're great people. And he said, they really don't care about them. That's just something to hammer Trump with. At that time. Not time when Barack Obama was president, because, he had talked about the dreamers and stuff too. But when Trump was president and Democrats was going on and on about the dreamers, really they were doing that because it was just something to beat Trump in the head with. Just a political tool. And that's the same thing here. Republicans don't care about immigration and border security because, like Chris Matthews said years ago, and I ride on what that man said, and what he said was, you will never see an answer to the immigration problem. Why? Because Democrats want the votes and Republicans want the cheap labor. And that's it. And that's it. And if I'm wrong, somebody prove me wrong. Once again, you're always in the pushback zone. Feel free to push back, but I swear to you, that's what it is. That's what it is. Republicans want the cheap and free sometimes labor, and Democrats want the votes. So you will never, ever, 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 ever see an answer to the immigration problem. You will never see a fair and legal path to immigration in America because there's too many people who make a lot of money and get a lot of fuel or whatever off of a broken immigration system. So that's sorry to say, but welcome to America. TI is what TI is, right? So moving on. And also talk about school curriculum and cultural issues. And you've been hearing a lot about this crap. These cats talking about burning books and transgender people in sports and all this other crap that no one really should care about and really shouldn't be that big a deal. They're making huge deals, passing different laws and stuff saying that CRT cannot be taught in schools when CRT was never taught in schools, was never going to be taught in schools. But they invented it. Boogeyman got people all riled up about it because I tell you, the GOP, they are masters at messaging. Their messaging is off the hook. And when they latch onto something, boy, they will beat it in people's heads until it's all you can think about. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's Hillary Clinton's emails, whether it's Benghazi, whatever they sink their teeth into, boy, by the time they're done with it, it's going to be ringing throughout your ears too, because their messaging is off the hook. When usually it's a horrible message. Anyway, the overturning of Roe versus Wade this summer, that really helped Democrats big time. Big time, because and really it helped Democrats because Republicans and the GOP, they just did not have the patience, just to hold their little horses. Like I said, if they had just held back and not messed around with this, overturning of Roe versus Wade before the midterms, this wouldn't be something that, there's definitely some Democrats who are going to win on this one issue. Because like we just even talked about here, you know what I'm saying? It's the number 2 issue. I've read some reports where it's the number 1 issue for a lot of people out here. So, I mean, they really overplayed themselves with that, but they did what they did. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? You can't put that cat back in that bag. Can't put that toothpaste back in that bottle. So it's out. And they got to deal with that, man. They got to try to find some way around that. Let's talk about some of the ad spending in some of these states for some of these political competitions. This will blow your mind. $37.1 million in Georgia they are spending on these political races, ladies and gentlemen. $27.6 million in North Carolina. $28 million in Ohio, in my great state, OH and a dime, the beautiful river state. We are spending $28 million in these political races. $15 million in Nevada and Wisconsin. Altogether, $169.2 million in political ad spending the GOP has set aside in these different states. That's ridiculous. $169.2 million in political ads. And a lot of times people make fun of these political ads, but obviously they work, right? Obviously they work on some level, even though they're over the top a lot of times, even though a lot of times they're nonsensical, even a lot of times they're laughable. They're obviously working. On some level, they're working. Because look at all this money that they pour into them. Or is just this the only way that they know to even get through as many people as to try and get through to as many people as they can, I guess, in as short a time as possible. But wow. You know what I'm saying? These amounts are just ridiculous. And what could be done with that money? How many people could be helped with this money? How many people who aren't eating now could be eating with this money? I guess that's a conversation for another day. Moving on, they were saying Trump is not helping the GOP. Said actually it animates the Democratic base whenever he is seen. So they said when he does these rallies or he's doing these interviews on TV and on Fox and all that, that ain't really helping the GOP because all that does is animate the Democratic base, and that is true. But see, that's their problem. Trump loves to be on camera. He loves to hear himself talk. He loves for people to be, hanging on his every word and all that. So he's not going to stop doing rallies or stop wanting to be seen by cameras. But when he does that, he makes people on the left mad and inflamed. So mad and inflamed, they're like, how can we stop this guy? Vote! And then they go do that. That's what the GOP don't want to do. Get involved! Oh, don't do that. Then you're a conscious voter. That's the last thing the GOP wants is conscious voters. But that's what Trump does. You know what I'm saying? The animus that people get for Trump, it gets under their skin, and they say, let me get activated. Let me galvanize. Let me get involved in my community and find ways to stop this guy and people like this guy who think like this guy. And that's what the GOP don't want and they don't need. But that's what they get whenever Trump rears his ugly head. But he let it rear, right? Because he loves to hear himself talk. He loves to see himself. So that kind of sucks for the GOP, but that TI is what a TI is. Moving on, let's talk about the GOP's abortion problem. They do have an abortion problem. Now, we know that the GOP hates abortion. We're just talking about that for 50 years. They've been trying to get rid of abortion. They pretty much got rid of it, you know what I'm saying? Looks like at their own political peril. The GOP acknowledges it needs to soften its language on abortion. White women are a challenging demographic for Republicans, and they always have been. Women, period, would be a challenging demographic for Republicans because all their policies are against women, right? Or a lot of their policies are against women, against people of color. Really don't, really aren't positive for anybody but older white males. and that just is what it is. I'm just saying what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, you know what I'm saying, women has always been a problem for the GOP. Their answer is commercials featuring their wives, daughters, and mothers. That's hilarious. I always said that, you know what I'm saying, Democrats give the electorate too much credit, and Republicans give the electorate no credit. So they figure that, yeah, we can have a candidate who comes out and says he's against abortion, he's against gay rights, he's against same-sex marriage, he's against all that. But if we have his wife talk to you about how he's a nice guy and a good father and how his mother raised him right and to care about others, we'll go ahead and just ease him right into that candidacy. We'll go ahead and get your vote. And sometimes it works, right? So that's the reason why they do it. But I really think that's kind of pathetic that they hide behind their wives, mothers, and daughters. But that's the GOP for you. That's how these guys get down. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't surprise me that some of these GOP candidates are just fine to hide behind the woman in their lives. So there's all that going on. Abortion is the number 2 issue behind inflation. So that's what they say right now. Inflation, like I said, that's all, you know, that's them kitchen table issues. That's that pocketbook issue. You know what I'm saying? All about the money you do or don't have to spend. You know, the price of things in stores and stuff like that. So to think that abortion is the number 2 issue behind that, that's huge. Like I said, in some polls, I've heard it's the number 1 issue. So that right there lets you know abortion, hot button issue, probably one that the GOP didn't even want to get into have to deal with right now. But they jumped the gun, you know what I'm saying? Those Supreme Court judges, they jumped the gun, and now they got to deal with this. So they were saying that they want to focus on the economy, not abortion or any other women's issues. Try to get college-educated suburban women who are pro-choice but would consider voting Republican. So think about that. There are some of those. There are some college-educated suburban women who are pro-choice, but they would consider voting Republican. And that's why I said right there, that whole abortion issue really sunk the GOP, because a lot of their stuff was all tied up. But then when they opened that can of worms right there, you really hit a hot button issue with a lot of women. And there's a lot of women and a lot of other people who, that one issue right there will have them voting Democratic. That one issue. At one issue will have them voting Democratic. So an age-old conundrum for the GOP. Yes, you know what I'm saying, how to reach out to female voters, like I said, and that's all these are going to be age-old conundrums for the GOP. When you have policies that go against people of color, that go against women, go against, minorities and all that other type of stuff, you're not going to get love from these people. They ain't stupid. They see how this policy is not in their best interest. Ergo, you're not going to get their vote. So that is what it is. Before I get out of here, my time is drawing nigh. I want to talk about Kanye West and Candace Owens. White Lives Matter t-shirts. Are you serious? Come on. First of all, when it goes for Kanye West and Candace Owens, they are unscrupulous provocateurs. That's what they are. Unscrupulous provocateurs. Not unlike Trump. Exactly like Trump. And there's a time when Kanye West said what? That him and Trump were dragon spirits. They're brothers. I'm starting to actually believe that. There was a woman who was talking about how Trump loves to the reason why Trump likes a candidate like Herschel Walker is because he wants to elevate a scumbucket to show that all of our rules and norms and all that here in society don't mean anything. That everyone's just like him. That everything's transactional, everything's for sale, and everyone's basically a slime ball. So that's what he likes to do. I'm starting to think the same thing about Kanye West, because what really bothers me about Kanye West is that absolutely nothing is sacred. Now, I went on record here saying that I'm not necessarily a part of the Black Lives Matter movement. Do I have a Black Lives Matter poster in my yard? No. Am I going to walk around in a Black Lives Matter t-shirt? No. But do I agree with the sentiment? Of course. I'm black and my life matters, so that's a no-brainer. But that's the reason why I wouldn't do all those things, because it's a no-brainer. Like water is wet or the air is breathable. But the point is, I get the significance. You see what I'm saying? And I would never ish on the sacredness of the sentiment, which is that black life matters and that we shouldn't just be killing black people willy-nilly. So the fact that Kanye West doesn't even have any respect or reverence for that, but he has shown time and time again, he doesn't have respect or reverence for a lot of things. Harriet Tubman, the Institute of Slavery, anything like that. This guy just really doesn't give a damn about a lot of things that he should have more respect for, and that troubles me. With that said, I do still like his music. So, it didn't surprise me when I heard that this guy was running around in a White Lives Matter t-shirt. And then when I heard that the chick who came out with him was Candace Owens, well, of course, another provocateur, another person who makes a lot of money and gets a lot of steam off of people talking about him like I'm doing now and getting eyes on him. And that's what they got with them shirts. So both of them are lames, they're dorks, they're goofies. But I do like Mr. West music, so I'm not going to lie about that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my time. This is Urban Politics, where politics lives, and I'm your humble host, Fizz Ed Music. Please, after this, go on over to YouTube, like and subscribe, Fizz Ed Music, Urban Politics, and as always, ladies and gentlemen, see you around like a donut.